Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Exciting day for us here. We're going to be doing the introductory training for Retail Orbit V2. This is a culmination of 18 months of actual build, but it's actually a culmination of 35 plus years of knowledge and experience working with retailers like you, listening to your questions and feedback, and also working with our retail experts. So before I get into the actual content here and turn it over to Mr. Mark Weiss, I did want to go over a quick agenda here because we do have a very content-rich demonstration. And I'm going to turn it over to CEO Mark Weiss and President of Management One, Mike Alec, just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be discussing today, what the thought process was behind going to version 2, and a little bit about what lies ahead for Management One. Then we'll turn it over to retail expert Scott Smith, and he will give a quick introduction to the product and the demonstration that you'll see from also another retail expert, Mike Taylor. Once we get through that demonstration, we will turn it over to Jeremy Weiss just to handle a couple of product demonstration features and a little bit about upcoming support with Sarah. And we will finally end on a live Q&A where we can take your questions. Speaking of questions, in GoToWebinar, if you're not familiar with the platform, if you're looking to submit a question at any time, please feel free and use the questions panel in GoToWebinar, and we'll answer all of your questions, hopefully time permitting, in this 90 minutes. If not, we will certainly address them individually afterwards. Sound is a big issue for GoToWebinar, so I want to make sure whether you're using computer or phone audio, please choose whatever works best for your system. And a recording. The question that we get most from folks is, will we be sending a recording out? Absolutely, yes. If you do need to leave early or if you are not in attendance today, you will be receiving the recording. So with that being said, I will turn it over to CEO of Management One, Mark Weiss.
Well, thank you very much, Nico. And I first want to thank all of our retailers for their support of Management One, all your ideas, your thoughts, the feedback, and especially through COVID last year, we hung tight together, and that was greatly appreciated by me and our entire team. As you know, our purpose is to provide financial security for our people, our clients, and our affiliates, and that goes to the very reason that we invested in upgrading, not just an upgrade, but rebuilt our entire platform. The importance of data never became more critical than during COVID, and we broke the myth of uncertainty by looking at data every single day, and our whole team got with their retail experts and made changes and kept you current, and we found at the end that our planning was highly accurate, and we were able to walk through the most difficult time I've ever seen. Our focus is merchandise intelligence and education for independent retailers. And again, part of the purpose of building out this new platform was to contain 35 years of tribal knowledge of planning, and at the same time integrate that with artificial intelligence and new logic that will benefit the entire client base. Part of our, we've got 6 core values, but perhaps the 3 most important in building this platform was adaptability. Just like you've had to make changes in your business. You've had to become e-commerce experts, social media experts. You've learned to chase down inventory that has been hard to find, so you've had to adapt. Well, we've had to adapt too, and we've adapted to be able to provide information in a different way so that you can make decisions faster and quicker. Our commitment has never wavered, and we've collaborated with outside resources. Jeremy especially has collaborated with retail experts and our entire community. So it's been a big part of what we built in is based on the collaboration from all of you. Fundamental to this change is we went from a static system to an interactive system, and you'll see that demonstrated clearly today. We wanted to be able to scale and use our information and our data. We have probably one of the largest independent databases in the world, or in the United States rather, in the Western Hemisphere, of information that we learn from every day. And based on our earnings, we're able to build those into the plans and the forecasting that you get. We have a tough job because we have to look at where you've got to look at where you've been, where you are today, and where you're going. And we wanted to be able to demonstrate that to you more effectively and more efficiently with even greater accuracy. So when COVID hit, we continued our path, which started in January of 2020 to rebuild our platform. We never deterred from that. We stayed on course. Those were one of the reasons I hired Mike Alec to run the company. I focused on getting us out of COVID, and he focused us on our future and helped us guide us to where we got to this day. So, Mike, it's yours. Take it over. Thank you, and it's our future's in your hands.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. It's an honor and it's a pleasure to be part of this team as always. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to you, our customers, for being here today. It's a big moment for us. We're launching a new version of our platform. It's taken a large team, a ton of work, and so I'd like to thank everybody who's worked on it. Our development team, Jeremy, our head of product development, Mike Taylor and Scott Smith. We've done an amazing job of helping us test and refine, and we'll walk you through the demo today. Celeste Bohm and Mark Ferguson heading up training. It's been a real team effort, and so I just want to recognize them. What you're going to see today, I think, will be pretty exciting in the interactivity of the reports. There will be some change coming, and so some of your reports will look a little bit different and work and act a little bit different. But we do think the interface is pretty intuitive, and of course, you'll always have your retail experts to help you through the process. One of the things I'd sort of like to emphasize is that today, or this week really, is not so much the end of a process as the beginning of one. One of the things that's nice about the new platform we're building on is the ability for us to evolve the kinds of reports we have more quickly than we have been able to in the past, and to produce custom reports more easily and better. And so one thing I'd like to urge you, our clients, to do is to give us feedback. Let us know things that you'd like to see differently in the reports, or things that are specific needs to you and that you'd like to see. Let us know through your retail experts. Let us know directly. Let Jeremy Weiss, our director of product development, know. We really, we're here to serve you, the whole team, from training to product development to marketing to our retail experts. We're here for you. This is about you. The only reason that we're in business is to help your businesses thrive, and the only reason that we have this product is for you. So that's really the key message. Is please do let us know your responses and your future needs. Now I'd like to turn it over to Scott Smith, who's going to give you an introduction to Retail Orbit V2. So take it away, Scott, and thanks.
Thank you very much, Mike. Excuse me. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us as well. Just wanted to touch on as we introduce this this section and this walkthrough, kind of the aha moment that I had going through the testing and the process as well. In seeing the testing of the reports, you'll notice that there's some subtle changes, and I don't think it really will worry anyone, and it makes a lot of sense. And I understood that, and I thought, okay, that's great. And I understood the reason that we were scaling and having the ability and a platform that will grow with everyone as well. But the aha moment really come from me when I was going through this walkthrough with Mike, and seeing how we would work within the program, seeing the dynamicness now of the program, being able to filter, and you'll see all of this in the walkthrough, but I really put myself in your position, which we always do, and this will make it easier. This will make it more achievable for you to dive into the plans, to be able to compare things, compare classes with each other, and really, I think, just a friendlier environment for you to be able to get to where you need to get to. And that's what really got me excited about the process. So, looking forward to the walkthrough and hoping you'll all enjoy this next section. Thanks, Nico.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Let me pull this up on screen.
Hello, everyone. Scott and I have had the opportunity to get in and examine the new Retail Orbit version 2 system. And hopefully we're going to take you on a bit of a tour today to show you some of the new features, how to navigate around, what some of the reporting is going to look like going forward, and to show you all the things that are still the same. So you ready to get going, Scott?
Absolutely.
Okay. So first thing, how do you get into the new system? Well, exactly the way you've always gotten into Retail Orbit before. You have the same credentials, you log in the exact same way and the same website. You don't do anything differently. But when Management One activates the new system, you'll land on this page instead of the page you've accustomed to seeing in the past. So no change on your part, just one day you will log in and Management One will let you know exactly when ahead of time. But you'll log in and this is where you will land instead of what you've been seeing in the past. So let's start with a little tour. So when you land, you're going to see the total business profile. So you're going to see the sales and all of that for the whole business. So this business, let's start with the sales. So the sales, we have the green bar, and whatever we're comparing to, we're going to go through filters in a minute to show you the different ways that we can look at this data. But whatever we're comparing to is going to be this shaded part of the graph. So for sales, we can see the shaded green, and then the darker line going through is going to give us our actual data. So we have now mouse over information. So if I look at March, it says my sales were 193,000 and my planned sales were 207,000. So whatever we're looking at, we can mouse over and see the actual numbers that's driving this graph. And I can go back and see what my numbers were in February and what my numbers were in January. And then at the bottom, we have kind of a darker bar divided into a section for each month. That bar is going to tell you if you're on track, if you're off track, and luckily on these three bars, these 3 months, we're on track for each one of them. We're a little bit under the plan, but we're pretty close. So any feedback or ideas or comments on that new concept, Scott?
Yeah, I'm really excited that we're seeing 3 months, a 3-month view. Quite often we've talked about that on the plans where there's only certain places that we can get that 90-day vision of what's going on, because it can be quite different to what an individual month. Like many of us know in our stores that we could have a, one really, off the scales month, and it might not be a true representation. I love the fact that we're now able to get some relationship between those months.
Right. Then we have essentially the same concept, but for markdowns. So the shaded area, again, gives us our planned markdowns, and the solid line, what our markdowns were for each month. And we can see for January and February, we were a little over. Then the same concept for February, I'm sorry, the same concept for inventory. And then we have the same concept for inflow. Now notice 2 of these, we have a different color. So the orange color shows that we're slightly off track. So the algorithm is telling us that our inflow for that month was not quite what the plan was telling us to do. So it just is a little highlight that says, hey, you were off the plan a little bit here. So
yeah, and you can see that relationship between the bar and the block as well, and that just gives us a highlight down the bottom. I think that's
right.
really a good visual indicator.
No. And if we come all the way over to the left, we have 3 months on our view right now. So we have January. This is what the annual sales plan was. February what the annual sales plan was, and March what the annual sales plan was. So you'll notice that on all the things we're going to look at today, we're using March data. That's because the tech guys are making a few last minute changes and we don't want their tweaks to mess up our June data. So we can show everything we need to show with March data. So that's what we're doing.
Mike, and I think that's a really interesting point that you just mentioned there by seeing the annual sales plan 3 times. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time we're actually able to see that relational information. You know, we rely on the plan, and quite often when we're looking at our stores, we say, oh, how much has the plan changed from last month in this class or in this category? Well, now we get to see 3 together and really look at that trend of how the plan is being adjusted according to what's going on over that period of time.
Right.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Now at the bottom, we have the same information shown in a different way. So I'm just going to page down and show you, we have all the classes outlined here, but I'm just going to go back up and show you one of them, which is accessories here. So this particular business has 3 locations, and we have changed the name of the locations, but we have an online store, we have an SE location, and we have an SP location. And like for sales here, the composite is 93%, but we can see that our individual businesses are different. We don't have anything for online. For the SE location, we're 138%, and for the SP location, we're at 97%. So we have the same concept for markdowns and for inventory and for inflow. But we can see on our sliders how each individual location is doing against the big composite at the top.
Excellent. This is another highlight of the power of the system now in being able to see. This is again where we've not been able to see these relationships against each other before.
Right. Now the real power of the new system comes apparent when we start using our filters. So this graphic up here in the upper left-hand corner, if I access that or click on it, whichever term you prefer, I have different ways I can filter or look at this information. I can select different periods of time to look at. I can show future plans or not. I can compare against the plan or last year. And I can do different levels of drill down, and I can filter by location, by category, by class. And we're not going to go through each and every filter this morning, but I do just want to show you how this works. So for example, you see what we're looking at here. If I filter just for one location, I deselect all and select the SP location and apply that. Now you see that data for the other 2 locations has disappeared. So I show accessories, casual dresses, denim, and whatnot just for the SP location. But let's say, Scott, that we're really interested in what's going on with casual dresses.
Okay.
So I'm going to come back here, and for just this location, I'm going to filter out all of the classes except I want to look at casual dresses. So I deselect all and just select casual. And see, now all of my data has changed, and what this data is showing me is for casual dresses only. See, down here we show casual dresses, and these sales numbers and markdown numbers and inventory numbers are only for casual dresses and only in the SP location. So I can, while I'm, let's say I'm a client and I'm looking at what's going on, or even a retail expert looking at this data, I can go in and filter. Do I want to look at a location? Do I want to look at a category? Do I want to look at a class? Do I want to look at different time frames? You can do that on the fly, and it will automatically recalculate and display your new information.
Excellent. And Mike, can I also then compare a couple of classes in that store together and have a look at how they relate to each other? Maybe I'm interested in looking at casual dresses versus dressy dresses.
Yeah, let's do that right now. So let's say we've already selected for casual. So if I just open that filter and add dressy and apply that, close my little filter box. See the data up here at the top now will be a composite of casual and dressy.
Okay.
But we have the sliders down below which show us the performance for each one of the classes.
Interesting. So you can really cherry pick the classes you want to look at, and this is a really interesting case where, dressy versus casual, so you can really see where you need to pay some attention.
Right. So now I can all kinds of options, whatever I want to look at, a time frame. I want to look at a specific category or multiple categories together, but I can filter on the fly and look at it and do my analysis accordingly. One other interesting little feature is if let's say, so my annual sales plan there is 278,000. If I just try to access casual dresses down here on the slider area, it's going to recalculate and give me an annual sales plan just for the casual dresses. And all the data now will be just for the casual dresses. So Scott, let's poke around a little bit and let's start with what's the same.
Okay.
Some of the main things that we use all the time that haven't really changed. So the profile section, see the things that open when I hover over are the same. And if I access it, see it's going to look exactly like it always has.
Okay.
And the the data, exactly the same. Most important thing is that if you need to download a template and load your data, that process hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
You can still download your templates, you can still upload your data, and we don't show it here, but for all those clients that are on Shuttle, that process hasn't changed.
Oh, good. So Orbit Shuttle is going to do its job as it always does.
Right. So we'll get the data. The client, the retail expert, doesn't do anything differently than they have been doing for us to get the data.
Got it. Okay.
So that should put a lot of people's mind at ease. So those two things are going to remain the same. Now, one thing that is going to change is the report library. So let's go ahead and access that and poke around a little bit. So you will notice it looks completely different. Essentially what we're going to have, let me get another tool here, is that the plans are going to be by topic. So we have some plans that are analytics, we have some plans, we have some progress reports, and we have some take action reports. So when you click or access on any one of these headings, it's going to show you the possible reports within that section.
Okay.
So the one we really want to start with, and if I click on the plan, we'll see the merchandise plan and the plan on demand. Kind of the mother of all reports, Scott, and the one that we always go back to is the merchandise plan. So if we access that one, and we're going to do the view, the merchandise plan for our client is going to open up. I'm going to go ahead and put that at the top of the page. So Scott, let's take a little tour around here. To me, if I was going to make an analogy on what the plans are like now compared to what they were before, the merchandise plan specifically, it's like going into that Lowe's neighborhood Lowe's that you're always going into. Now, when you go in there, everything is going to be very similar, but it's going to be just a little bit different.
Yeah.
So because you're going
in aisle 27, it might not be in aisle 27 anymore.
Sorry, I meant to say if your neighborhood Lowe's is laid out one way, and then you go into one that's the mirror image, which I've done before.
Ah, yes. Okay.
You know where you are, but you can't quite figure out whether you should turn left or right. And it takes a few minutes to get accustomed to that. That's kind of what we're going to see here. You know, things are in a different sequence. The relationships of things, how they're laid out, are a little bit different. But I think it's more logical once you get a little bit used to it.
Agreed. Agreed.
So let's get a little thing to highlight here with. So the first thing you'll notice, let's start with the colored section, the planning section, I like to call it. You'll notice right off the bat that the purple section is missing. So the purple section is now gone, and the first section we'll see is now sales. So first main part of the plan is sales. You'll also notice that the sequence within sales is different. The first row is forecast sales now. The second row is the current year. Now, all those numbers for 2021 are going to be on that row.
Okay.
And 2020, the previous year, will always be the year under that. And then the sales difference is the last row. Now it makes sense mathematically. See, I can take this number, subtract from this number, and get this number down here.
I like that.
It's laid out the way we would do math, which makes sense, right?
Yep, yep.
And we don't repeat months at the beginning or the end. Now we just have a total column on the right.
I'm hearing the sighs of relief from some of our clients out there as well, that we're keeping everything nice and linear now.
Yeah, so it's, I think, cleaner and simpler. And like I say, it'll take a little bit of time just to become accustomed to it, but it won't be long.
Okay.
What you have to do for the landing pages and the reports and everything, you just have to get in here and poke around and mess with it and get accustomed to it.
Okay.
So one thing that's missing, it is coming, it's not done yet, is we had a system where all the forecast numbers were purple. Right now, all the numbers are black. The forecast numbers in purple is coming, but it's not completed yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So in case you're looking at your screen and wondering what happened, that's what's going on.
Okay.
Then we have the Markdown section. The exact same concept. We have the forecast followed by the current year, followed by the previous year, followed by the difference. Then the inventory, we have the forecast BOM, then current year, previous year, the difference, and then we have the stock to sales forecast.
Okay.
Not the actual, but we have the forecast here. We'll pick up the actual later. Okay.
Got it.
And the inflow. Now let me page down a little bit here. The inflow is different because all the open to buy numbers have been taken out and put into their own section. So inflow now is only inflow. You know, we don't have all the calculations in there that we used to have. So again, we have.
I love that change.
You love it, okay. I like it. It's very, like I say, I think it's cleaner.
Cleaner, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we have the forecast. Now, when we get down here, we have retail and cost. So we have forecast inflow at retail and cost, followed by our 2021 retail and cost numbers. So it starts over here on the right. Then we have last year's retail and cost inflow numbers.
Okay.
So our history is there. Then the open to buy section. Again, we have what's on order at retail and cost. Then we have the inventory deviation, and you know that will only be in the current month. That's how far we are either over or under where we'd like our inventory to be, or the forecast. Then we have the calculated open to buy. So the open to buy is the last set of numbers in the planning section, which I greatly prefer.
Yeah,
because I like to
absolutely.
highlight
Agreed.
these numbers and annotate them and draw circles and arrows to them. So now I have a little space to do that.
Yeah, I really like even the subtlety of having a nice open notes area below that, you know, like where we want to pay a
Right.
lot of our attention. We've now got an area too that we can take some notes in and be able to kind of highlight that area as well.
Right. So that's the new layout. It's going to take you a little bit of time to become accustomed to it, but I think you'll like it once you do. Now, the white section of the report, which has a lot of calculations, indices, KPIs, general history information.
KPIs,
It's the same, it's just different.
history information. It's the same, it's just.
So this section hasn't changed, the annual forecast. Now, from here down, we have sections like this section is going to have sales, markdowns, and inflow. And we have a lot of historical data here. What
Okay.
the forecast last month was, what actually happened last month, what happened 1 year ago in the same month, the dollar difference and the percentage difference. So a lot of numbers there to analyze, you know, how you did versus the plan in last year.
Okay.
Then we have year to date this year and last year and the difference in those two numbers, dollars and percentages. So a lot of data in that one little section there.
Yeah, I really like the addition of inflow. Like we've been used to having our sales and markdown report, and now having the inflow section beside it is a nice relationship.
And then we have a section with we have an inventory, we have stock sales ratio, and we have the difference. So for example, our forecast inventory last month was 452. The actual number last month was 559. If my math is good, that difference is 107,553. And then our last month, last year, and then we have the differences on the inventory and stock to sales ratio. See,
Okay.
we used to have the stock to sales ratio, just two numbers here in the inventory. Now we have a little bit of historical perspective there.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then let me page down a little bit more here. So this is familiar, it's just in a different place.
Okay.
We have the inflow for last 3 months. So December, January, February, we have the plan, the actual difference to the plan, what's on order, and the freshness. Freshness is kind of laid out a little different than what we're used to seeing. You know, we don't have the 30, 90, 30, 60, 90, it goes 30, 60, 90 now. So
yeah. So more demonstrating where we were for that period of time via the months instead of having the 30, 60, 90 number.
And then the inventory movement, we just have the net movement and the adjustments. So they've kind of consolidated the in and out and return to vendor and all those numbers.
Okay.
And then we just have the adjustments that the client would have made, that the retailer would have made in their system. Then cash margin numbers, the 4-month number, actual, and the last year, the difference, and then the forecast for the next 12 months. Scroll down a little bit. Most of this is pretty familiar, the bottom row. Maybe in a little bit different places. The annual KPI, these are in a different place. We have the turn and the actual for the turn, CMROI, GMROI, and MMU.
Excellent.
That's our rolling 12-month numbers.
So we've now added our CMROI to the planning pages as opposed to just being on the inventory performance report.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So do you use GMROI anymore, Scott?
Sorry?
Do you use GMROI anymore?
Yeah, I do. You know, Mike, I still do comparisons. I find the power of GMROI and CMROI now is just in the comparison between the two.
Okay. This section is the same. We have the metrics, the last 3, 6, and 12 for sales and last year, cost of purchasing, those numbers. I need to get my regular pointer. See down here, you can mouse over, and I'll have to confess, I did know which one was last year and which one was this year. I think last year is on the bottom, but it used to tell you in the mouse over, but we lost that. And then the IMU, last year's IMU, maintain markup, last year's maintain markup, the last 3 sections, which I like the
Nice.
last year numbers.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's a really good additional feature for us as well.
So that's kind of poking around the actual plan a little bit. But what makes it useful are our filtering options. So again, we have a filter icon here. And let's see what we can do as far as what we can access. So let's access our thing. So I can filter just by location. So again, this client has 3 locations. So let's go through, watch the numbers change as we go through these exercises. If I go to the SP location, takes it just a minute to delete, but now we're going to see the just 1 location instead of 3. And I think we had like 2.5 million here a minute ago, and now we have like 1.5 million.
Okay, great.
So
on the fly, Mike, like instead of having like we did before to move out or scroll down through the different parts of the plan, it's a touch of a button now.
Yes. And then, you know, earlier we were talking about just dresses. So let's go down and deselect our classes and select only casual dresses. So now we're in 1 location, and we're going to look at casual dresses only for that location. So it's taking the data a minute just to load up. Now we're only looking at casual dresses only for the SP location. Let me close this filter box. So what about that?
That's excellent. As we can all relate, scrolling down through can really be a time-consuming thing, and especially when we're in a conversation or we're hunting down, you know, some evidence on a couple of classes. Like to have those to be clickable like that and be able to get straight into that class, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. And if we're interested, you know, going back to our earlier conversation about the dresses, I can add into this dressy dresses. So it's starting to recalculate. So it's going to give me a composite on the screen here of the 2 groups.
Interesting.
So if I want to talk about all dresses, you know, you might not always want to do that, but what it gives you the ability to make groupings or categories on the fly. You don't have to create them in Retail Orbit and then revisit everything. You can do it on the fly if you want to look at something grouped together.
Well, and I know that there's a lot of clients now looking at this with, you know, larger class counts, that there's some serious time savings when you're able to do this and be able to be, you know, in that class or in that group of classes in the moment without going in and out or doing all that scrolling.
Right. So that's the merchandise plan. So let's go to the plan on demand. Just wanted to quickly show the plan on demand. So the first thing is all of the changes and reformatting that we looked at on the merchandise plan will be reflected in the plan on demand.
Okay.
So the sales are the first thing, the sequence of the sales, all that is essentially the same. What I want to look at is down here when we get down to the open to buy. So now I think it's a lot cleaner like the other things. I have the on order, I have the updated inflow, and the updated open to buy at retailing cost. So the updated, you know, would be if we're going to hit our plan, this would be my new open to buy.
Okay, so what we would have formerly called revision, we're calling it
Right,
updated now.
exactly,
Okay,
right.
okay,
And
gotcha.
that's clear cut, right there by itself. Then the same thing for the trend. If I sell for the rest of the month and buy according to my trend, then this is going to be my open to buy based on my trend, the last two rows, retail and in cost.
Oh, I really like how that's organized in a really nice logical fashion. Now, I actually like the terminology updated too. It makes sense that
Yes,
we're
yes,
updating as of today.
yeah. And again, to me, it's just cleaner. I
Yep,
like where it is. I like the way it's laid out.
absolutely. And yet the rest of it, Mike, staying pretty much the same to how we know the merchandise plan. A lot simpler view now. I really do like that.
Yeah. And then let's look at a plan that's got some different things that these two plans don't have. So let's look at the take action, and let's look at the inventory action report.
Okay. I like that terminology, Mike. I like the take action reports are where we're in the moment, we're looking at them and able to kind of really move from that report. It's
Right.
a nice way to organize them. I think it makes sense.
Now, we could filter this the way we did the other filters. We could filter just one location. We could filter just one class.
Okay.
But let's start right here because I really want to emphasize some other filters. So I'm going to access my filters here.
Okay.
And Scott, what I want you to do is keep your eye on these numbers over here.
Okay. The OTB updated and the OTB
Right.
trend.
So I'm not going to change the location or anything like that, but I do want to change from retail to cost.
Ah, on the fly. I like it.
So on the fly, you see those numbers change.
Gotcha. Yep.
So if you're
Wow.
a
That's just
retailer
saved a lot of
looking at
time.
what you want to buy, or if you're in a client meeting and you're a retail expert, you can modify those numbers on the fly and look at it either
Mm.
retail or cost.
Which we've had to, in the past, we've had to have those canned reports
Right.
prepared or gone out of our conversation and gone and created those reports. You've just done it with a single click.
Now, also keep your eye on those numbers again. I have a
Okay.
slider here for the time frame. Remember before we would go
Ah,
in and
yes.
select 1 month or 2 months or 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I can say, well, I want this to go out through September,
Yeah, like let's look at our
and
complete.
boom, my open to buy numbers change.
Wow, and I think we all appreciate that it's in our conversations that we have and we're talking about, well, let's have a look at a particular season. Well, once again, no longer are we going back, reformatting a report, losing our momentum and our discussion point. Now we're right in the moment looking at how much open to buy we have, whether it be updated or trended
Yeah.
for that period of time.
You know,
Fantastic.
if we're looking at dresses, I could filter this down to only look at dresses, but we can easily see the dresses because we don't have that many classes. But to me, the
Gotcha.
power of the filtering for this is I can update on the fly. I can look at cost versus retail. I can look at various months in my span and get my
Mm.
updated open to buy numbers.
Wow, that's a big change in that report for sure. That's a
Yeah.
very helpful functionality.
Now, other reports mostly haven't changed very much. They might look a little bit different, but they're pretty much what we saw before. So,
And then like following this same kind of on the fly filtering system that's now available in a lot of these reports.
mhm.
Fantastic.
So, to me, the big changes are the landing page, a lot more versatile.
Hmm.
We can poke around, learn a lot about what our performance just on that landing page by different filters and looking at it different ways. Um, our actual reports, some of them, I think they're all easier to read once you
Yep.
get a little accustomed to them. They're
Yep.
more logically laid out. But to me, the real power is just being able to do things on the fly.
Absolutely.
I can filter down, I can look at just a class on a merchandise plan, or I can change my time frames on the inventory action report. You can do this dynamically, whether you're a client sitting and ordering dresses, or you're a retail
Hmm.
expert having meetings. You can just do whatever you need to do kind of on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it takes away from the requirement that a lot of us had to, download specific reports, look at specific PDFs. We have a really good logical format. I noticed too that the reports, especially the plans, are a lot more linear now, so giving us the ability to kind of download and format with Excel if we need to down the track as well.
Yep. And then you just hit the download PDF to make a PDF, just like before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I really recommend anyone, you just need to get in here once the system goes live, poke around, look at different reports, filter them different ways, so you can appreciate all the options at your fingertips.
Excellent.
So I think that's kind of our summary, Scott. Did you have any final comments on what we have?
No, I think that wraps it up pretty well, Mike. I think that there's, to me, I agree with you completely that it's about it's speed and efficiency for which we can kind of get in now with the. It's clear to me that we're going to be able to be more efficient with our time now to be able to drill down and work through the classes, and it just makes a little bit more sense.
I couldn't agree more. That was a good place to end on, Scott.
Excellent. Yeah, great. Thanks, Scott and Mike. That was a great walkthrough. Really excellent. So I'd now like to turn the conversation over before we get into live Q&A to welcome two specific individuals who are really important members of our team, Jeremy Weiss and Sarah Barr. Jeremy's waving. Excellent. There's Sarah. So Jeremy's our Director of Product Development, and he has been instrumental in designing what you've just seen. He's taken input from clients, taken input from our retail experts in the field who work with you, and he's just done great work. And he is going to continue to be available to you as we continue to evolve the product. One of the nice things about our new platform, as I said earlier, is that we are going to be able to make changes relatively quickly. And Sarah, I really want to, recognize Sarah. Sarah has led our technology development team inside Management One in getting the work done to get us to where we are today. So kudos to Sarah, and thank you to you and your team. You've put in a lot of hours. And she also heads up support and operations. And so she'll talk a little bit about, how we'll be providing a little bit of sort of intensified support or, extended support hours and resources in the immediate period following the launch, and talk a little bit about how that will work. But I'd like to start by turning it over to Jeremy. Say a few words about kind of how we got here and where we're going.
Hello. I'd also like to say thank you to everybody on the team. So I've kind of been the one hunkered down with some of the developers and some of the people creating these new things. And honestly, I'm really excited to start getting feedback on what you love. Hopefully that's a lot of stuff, and I'm sure commonly maybe what isn't, but that's good to get to. And like Mike said, we have a pretty amazing platform now where things aren't so static. They're a lot more dynamic. So we want to release improvements and really tune this thing up. I was also asked to talk about kind of some operational things. I think Sarah will touch on it, like what to expect from planning. I also kind of wanted to give you some background on the platform and kind of what to expect other than that kind of comes out of the planning platform and appears on the reports. So I kind of wanted to go over what has changed. You guys, we've improved some of our planning algorithms. One of the core things about what we do is we always intend to produce a balanced inventory plan, which requires peaking and reducing inventory at the right time. You should expect that our inventory and inflow plans are even more bulletproof. So overall, you may not really notice any of these changes, since we also have a planning team who tend to watch over plans. We QA our plans. They continue to watch over this, but you should continue to expect a relatively standard approach in how our inventory and inflow plans are implemented. So we're just beefing up our logic. But this kind of like has some particular results with seasonal classes and seasonal locations, which is why I was kind of giving you that background there. We believe that when a season is over, there should be a plan to sell down all the inventory. Carrying inventory out of season should never be the goal in our plans. Our plans always intend to drive fresh goods. That's what our planning system does. The goal should be to cash out all the inventory by the end of the season in these types of classes and locations. So you should expect that our planning system will start to automatically drive down the inflow, in many instances to zero at the end of a selling season where appropriate. That is really kind of a standard approach that kind of happens in our system, because it's really looking at optimizing how we peak inventory and how we get it down. And it really kind of reveals itself in some of those classes and locations. Again, you might not notice these things, but again, I guess to carry on some of the themes Mike was talking about, it's cleaner. That would be also a cleaner kind of view of your inventory plans. But essentially, we spent a lot of time building up our data model, and we're just really excited about looking forward to make our planning and reporting platform more powerful, and as Mike kind of showed you, interactive. This isn't data that's just printed on a page. This is data that you can interact with, which is really powerful and like really exciting, and especially with how it cross-references data and learns what is trending. So I kind of just wanted to give you that kind of background about maybe you don't see it, but like you kind of see that in the reports. And then Sarah, I think, was going to touch base on how we're the process for delivering plans this month. Sarah, are you there? I think Sarah's letting me know she was having some phone issues, so I could take it from here if she can't be heard. Hold on one second. Can somebody unmute Sarah?
She should be unmuted now.
Sorry, we have that technical issue on this GoToMeeting. I'll touch it though for you, Sarah. Okay. Sorry if I'm saying okay, so there's going to be a little bit of a different process this month. So one of the things we kind of need your the notification process. I guess I could sum it up this way. The notification process that you're used to is when your plans are ready, you get like a notification email. In this transition, you won't receive you won't see like published notifications through email, but you will receive a notification from our support system once the plans are up, once the updated planning data is there for you to view. So you just won't get the email, like an automated email, but you will get a support email. The management, as always, the Management One team is available for support to communicate any issues. You can always email us at support@retailoorbit.com or call us at 520-612-2001, or you can even make appointments through our Set More links. And we also have all this stuff posted to our knowledge base. And there's also a lot of documentation, a lot of like information. If you have any questions about some of these new features or some things that are going on, you can access the Retail Orbit knowledge base to find that stuff. We also have additional support Saturday, June 26th and Sunday, June 27th. So you could book a time with a team member if you need assistance then. I think that should cover what you're going over. Okay, good. I'm not as articulate as Sarah. I say a lot. Sarah is much cleaner with her words.
All right. Well, you did a good job there, Jeremy. That's all right. I think you hit the key points, right? Extended support we will be mailing out all of the support contact points and details of extended support hours and resources out to all of the registrants, in fact, all of the customers of Management One. So thank you, Jeremy. So before we dive into live Q&A, I actually wanted to let Mike Taylor give us a little bit more insight and demonstration of some of the filtering options that we have in the new platform, which I think are, I think as we've said, is one of the most exciting things. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mike, and then after that we'll go into Q&A.
Let me make you a presenter here, Mike.
Hey. Scott, I hope you're going to be with me.
I'm right there with you, mate. Mm-hmm.
You guys may notice Scott's thick Alabama accent.
Born and raised.
Okay, so they ask us to go in and show just a few more of the filter options in another report or two, so we'll give that a shot. So here we loaded up back to your landing page, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways we can filter and look at the data here. So let's start with the time period. So the tech guys let us use the June data now, so we'll go ahead. So I can look at month-to-date data, end of month, but let's look at the last year just for fun. And now you'll see the first thing that we notice is we have a lot more bars. So we have one of those for each month. And you can kind of see the impact of the pandemic there. We trended down and now we're trending back up again. So that's good. And now you'll see we also have all of the bars for each of the months going back. So if I just pick a spot at random, see that's December. That was my actual sales. That was my plan. That was pretty close. Kudos on that one.
Mike, can I jump in and just
Sure.
add a point to that, because it speaks to a question that one of our retailers had as well. Is that I think that the dashboard, what you're showing here, shows more accountability for us to be able to see both how we've performed as the retailer and how the plan has performed as well. And I think it's important that we're transparent on both sides. I like the fact that you're showing us now what's happened over a 12-month period, which we have not been able to see graphically before. And it's a transparency between, was the plan on point, were the sales, and then the key factors, markdowns, inventory, and inflow, were they all in alignment? And I think that's a really powerful thing on this dashboard.
Right. And, we can look at 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, this month, we can look at all those options and see how we kind of picked up there. I will say this number is a little bit misleading because we haven't been picking up all the month-to-date updates while the tech guys have been working. So this number is actually up here. So they continue to do well. But we can see this relationship for different time frames. And again, we have our sliders, so we can see how those come into play. I do want to show this one. I think this one is interesting. So we're comparing everything to the plan. Let's change that, Scott, and look compared to last year.
Okay.
So not as dramatically different as you might think. But see, when we get here to March, we can really see the difference. See, we kind of didn't do all that great when we were closed last year. And now we've done a lot better. And again, this number's up here. So, but we can compare. Now, this gray area will be last year. So whatever we're comparing to is going to be the gray area, the shaded area rather. And the actual performance will be the line. So we can see there starting that period, we really started to pull away from what happened last year. So, and then we can look at class all those things. We did most of that filtering before. So I think that gives just a little bit more insight in the different ways we can look at this data. Again, we can compare to plan, we can compare to last year. We can look at different time frames. I'll just open those so everyone can see them. Last 3 months, month to date, lots of different ways that we can look at this data.
I really like, Mike, how we can call out specific groups of classes now. You might want to call them categories, but a lot of people refer to as like, where are my signature classes? How are they performing? We talked about it in the walkthrough as well, but I like the fact that we can have 3 or 4 classifications that we're really interested in grouped together and look at all of these statistics on one page.
Right. And we wanted to show a couple of filters that we didn't look at. So let's go to the progress and the buyer performance report. So if I look at the view here. So again, I'm not going to filter, but I do want to show the different ways we can look at report. Oops, look at me, I selected the wrong report. I wanted to go to progress. There we go. You're supposed to correct me when I make these mistakes, Scott.
Sorry, mate, not doing my job.
So now we have different reports. Just to show you the different, let me close this. The different ways we can look at data or reporting summaries. See, this is a location, and then these are all the apparel classes. That's the way this report is done. I could look at it kind of the opposite way. Look at it by category, by class, by location. And then it would look like this. So now I have the class, and then I have the locations under that with a subtotal for the class and all locations. And then T's the same thing. So I can look at this data, sort it, and look at it many different ways in sorts.
I think that answers some of the questions we've got coming in too, is just that relational side. So we can start to look at relationships inside the classes now, as opposed to coming from the store and going through stores. Before it would take us quite a bit of in and out to be able to get to this information, going out to another report, setting it up, coming back in again. You're doing this like, live and changing the views, which is really powerful.
Right. So let me, oops. So I want to, now the main thing I wanted to show on this report is this is progress, how we're doing in the month. So this, we have 2 variables here for time frame. I have the data through period. So this says the 23rd. It just so happens today is the 23rd. And we have selling days in June. If I remember my nursery rhyme correct, there's 30 days this month. So we can change these if we want to. Now, why would we want to change the date through? Well, there are different retail experts have different reasons, or clients might have different reasons. I think the most common one would be if you log on in the morning and you're looking at this report and you've already had a data upload before you open, it's going to say the 23rd when your data is actually only through the 22nd. So I would change that to the 22nd, for example. And then if I had selling days, let's say this was May, and I was going to be closed the last day of May, I could change that to 29. But you can override the, let's call them the factory settings, or what it's going to default to. It's going to default to that day. And then your report will change accordingly. So I can filter. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Scott.
No, that effectively changes your trend period then as well. So you
right.
can exactly. You can maybe call it a more realistic trend that you can have some power over.
Now that changing the day of the month, it's not that big a deal. It does make a difference, but it's not earth-shattering like it would be the 4th or 5th of the month.
And we've had that point come up too, Mike, where it's like it can be kind of devastating to look at it at the start when you're looking 4 days in and it's 1 day off. It can really get your senses misdirected. So it's good to be able to change that now and make it a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, so I can filter those things, override the system, and then I can look at it exactly the way I want to look at it. Or if the city's going to come in and pave the street in front of your store on Main Street and you're going to be closed the last 7 days of the month, you can override that. So then I want to show the inventory variance. So this report is actually quite a bit different than it was before. Some things have migrated from the merchandise plan to this report. So you'll see now it has transfers in, it has transfers out, it has return to vendors, in addition to what we used to have on here. So we can see all of those things that are impacting the value of your inventory besides what you received.
It's a nice addition for us because they're variables. Remember, with the variance report, as we talk about, it's the difference between what your POS system is telling and what we're calculating month over month and every time we get a data update. And those factors weren't on the variance report before, and they are factors that could have a difference, have a variance between the two. So it's nice to have full exposure to them now as well.
Right. Now the filters here are going to be, we have some things that we don't have on most of the other reports. So I can now look at different time frames. You know, historically, this report has been last month to this month and what changed and what was the value of that change. But now I can go further back in time and see that change over a period of time. Let's say, for example, I go back to January 2021, not 2020. And now that's going to give me January to May 2021. So I can see the differences. I can see the total transfers that I had over that period. I can see the return to vendors over that period, and I can see my inventory variance over that period. So that allows me to pick a period of time and see what happened in all this movement in and out.
You know, that really adds scope and value to this report, Mike, when you look at it. And thanks for kind of showing these filters. Like, you know, you think about the transfer situation, you think about the cost of transferring merchandise and the heads up we're going to get on this screen to see like what efforts we're putting in as retailers to move this product between stores. Like that's an added value to this report, I think, over and above just the checking of the numbers between the systems.
Yep. So, you know, what we were saying earlier, Scott, what you really have to do, in my opinion, is you have to get into this system. You have to go to each report, look at the various ways you can sort the data, play around with the report, see which one you personally like, see what your selections are, what you can filter, how you can filter, and just explore, and then there you'll be decide what you like, what's useful, and go from there.
Yeah, just so much more dynamic than where we've been before. I think this is a really good visual of how we, you know, what changes we can make.
You know, just one other one. It's not different than what we just showed, but you know, the plan on demand is a time frame sensitive report. So you do have the time sliders like we just looked at on that report also. So if I look at my filters, it's loading up. So here I can look at the selling days. So see, I have my date through and I have my selling days exactly like we saw on the progress report. So if I wanted to make those changes to the progress report, I could reflect those changes on the inventory action report.
And on the plan on demand.
I'm sorry, and the plan on demand. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you
Well,
go,
it's great.
Scott, correcting me when I need it.
Well,
So,
because it's a really powerful place that you're showing us this right now, because the plan on demand is really our, it's our be all and end all of source of knowledge, like on any given day. And you've now given us the, that flexibility to have that, just that tendency to make it a bit more accurate when it comes to trending and updating as well.
yeah, so, if you want to see exactly where you are, what's happened, what your open to buy is, you can go to this report, you can adjust your variables, and off you go.
Yeah. One of the things I always like to mention too, while we're here, is that, folks, you can't break these things. It's all about getting in and playing with these tools. Like Mike's showing us some great features now, and I really encourage you to get in and play with it. Like it's more dynamic now because we want you to be more involved and to drive into these plans. Don't be scared of any of these things. You literally can't hurt anything once you're in there.
Yeah. And like I said, you just have to get in, filter things, look at them, see which ones you like, and then over time you may change your mind even. So, but that's kind of the highlights, unless there was something else you think we need to take a quick peek at, Scott.
No, I just want to give a call out for Sarah and Jeremy again, that if you with your pointer there, you've got the down in the bottom left-hand corner, you've got the support tab, and in the top right, you've got the little kind of microphone. It looks a little silly, like me with the headphones on as well. Both great sources of knowledge, right? The knowledge base right there, and then down on the bottom left is the support tab, where you can interact with us. It's really important that feedback is a very important part of the accuracy of these plans. So again, don't be afraid of those tools as well. Get in there and find what you need, and tell us what you need to tell us. It'll get to the right people.
Great point, Scott. Great point. Okay, so back to Nico. Thanks.
Thank you all. I am going to just remove that screen really quick. Or if you could just stop presenting, Mike, I think you have to actually hit the stop button there.
Hold on, I've got something in the way here.
Or actually, perhaps leave it up just in case we need to show something directly on one of the reports. That might be a better option. So we actually do have a lot of questions here, so let me filter through these. I want to start with one important one from Steve Silver, and Steve is asking, how much testing has been done to assure the data accuracy?
All right, so I'll take that one, Nico. Thanks. So, I mean, the short answer is a lot, right? Hundreds of hours, if not thousands. So we've had a combination team working on this project. It's been some outside vendors, our in-house staff, of course, our affiliated retail experts, right? We've called on our network of retail experts in the field to help do the testing. And we've also used some software tools, right? Like we start by using here's the process we went through was, for all the key data points, we started by looking at the expected value versus the value that was in the new system and identify the differences. And then where we found discrepancies during the testing process, we did a root cause analysis and solved the problem. And so we spent a lot of time troubleshooting both the data and the calculations, right? Because there's really two parts to it. There's the underlying data right, and then are we doing the math correctly? And so we've really spent hundreds of hours on it. Really, that's, I really like to thank, Mike and Scott and our testing and QA team and the other retail experts who've been involved in testing. We put a lot of time into it, and I feel pretty good about it. We hopefully will be perfect. If we're not, we'll fix it. That's our commitment to you, but we've really put a ton of effort into testing the data.
Absolutely. We've had multiple questions asked in a different way, but it's all pretty much around the same concept. I would think this one I would put to you, Jeremy. A lot of what we're seeing in the comparisons are 2020 versus 2021, and 2020 was obviously a very anomaly year. So how do clients tackle looking at the current year versus 2019?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right now, this comparison is very similar to our our current reporting, where it's plan versus actual versus last year. But one of the things that that I would actually look forward to doing is that I am working on is the ability to dynamically compare to any different year, right? So maybe I want to look at how I'm doing compared to 2 years ago or 3 years ago, with a more, maybe a simplified view of the merchandise plan, to be able to do maybe comparison differences. And that would actually be something that, if anybody's really interested in wanting to kind of like test that or pilot through that. But that would be something, for the future.
Anything for 06? Yeah. Okay.
Say that again.
I
hope that answered the question, but there definitely can be features added to this platform, which is I want to decide what year I want to compare to. That is desired.
Perfect. One of the first questions that we got, I think, when we were going over the initial client overview, Chris is asking, can you filter by class with child?
I think I answered that in the chat, but if that got lost, no. We decided in the progress in that would be more of an overview, and that the drill downs would go as far as by client, by class by location, or by location by class, and to kind of keep that focused on the parent or the plan class, like what is the progress against plan, and not get too granular from that overview dashboard. But it'd be good to get feedback still, because that was a decision that was made to just kind of keep things a little bit higher above and not lower into the mud. So that was the reason for that decision.
Perfect. In case folks didn't see this one in the chat, there was also a question that said, can you still scroll down to see all of the categories at one time? Can you give them an answer on that one too, Jeremy?
Yeah, you can. You could, again, through that filtering, say I want to look at by category and get a roll up by category. Say you had 10 different categories, you had a pretty diverse class structure. You could do that, yes. There's not going to be a separate page for it, I guess, is what I should clarify. You can dynamically, change things on the fly, which goes with kind of this presentation.
And can you download reports as XLSX or CSV or both?
Yes, there will be the ability to download through Excel.
I will also add PDF on that one too. Bill Coleman was saying, have you considered adding planner's notes to the merchandise plans?
That's an interesting question. I haven't recently put honestly, I haven't put a lot of thought into kind of like how we can communicate more effectively through the reporting. There's kind of some different ways we could explore that. Right now, this would be more if you wanted to mark up a report, you'd generate a PDF and mark up the PDF, or if you had presentation software or whatever and you were sharing with people, you could, like Mike was using in this presentation, you could share it that way. But those two options you could still pursue. But if anybody has like really good ideas about how people can share their insights as they see them in reporting, and make that kind of dynamic, that's really interesting as well. So I'm open to listen to those kinds of thoughts.
And Barry Goodman had that question as well about annotation.
Yeah, annotation, you could mark up a plan in PDF, in PDF form.
Excellent. Steve is asking, when will vendor info be incorporated?
Hopefully soon. I don't have an exact, I don't have any kind of timeline on that, but I can say that everything that we've been building towards on this platform, which is to make it more dynamic, there's also a lot of things that we've been doing to cross-reference the data better, and actually report on it, right? So we have the tools now to do that. This is just kind of the first wave of features that you're seeing, but those things we're really excited about adding onto the platform.
Yeah, I just also wanted to comment on that. You know, I know, Steve, we've talked about, you know, where we wanted to go with this product in the past and into the future. And part of what we built this platform to do is ingest data better and process it better and faster and quicker. So to your point, you know, we can do that sooner rather than later, but it is doable. And we're excited about that. But as Jeremy said, we needed to get this launch done, and we had lots of data to move over. And to your question earlier, make sure it was all correct, and create new visualizations. We're also using new tools that we also had to get certified on and learn. So there's a lot of work that got us to where we are today to launch. And Jeremy is now head of new product development. So I would encourage those of you that have ideas about how to use data to make better decisions, that you schedule an appointment with him. His ability to process and be open to new ideas is why he has the position he has. So we wouldn't have created a position of new product development if we weren't intending to go forward with it. So thanks, good question.
Yeah, and I would say thank you. And then as a final statement on that, we put in all of this hard work to deliver a new platform, and then so that we can move smoother in that kind of product development phase. And then I also wanted to clarify that as I'm answering things and I'm thinking about like, oh, will we have this? Will we have that? Will we have this? Will we have that? There will be series of releases going on. Maybe like not all of them might be available. Like I think I answered like Excel, like can we report data on Excel and do those? All of these things are totally possible, and we want to release these things, but we also are trying to phase our releases out as well, because there is so much to learn and there's so much to get used to. I think like our strategy was, let's deliver your reports, the new ways you can interact with your reports, some new overview dashboards, and then keep on building the feature suite as we move forward.
Absolutely. That probably is a good segue into the next question, because I think this will be a future release. Two different questions along the same vein. The first one is, do the filters that you put in stay once you change them for a report, or will they reset when you log in? And then Barry asks, can you save favorites? Like, can you have your own favorite set of filters?
Yeah, so the answer is yes, you will be able to soon. It really hurts for me to say things like, because I want to be as transparent as possible, honest. It's not, again, not maybe everything will be there that we want to be. We want to be there as far as like some pretty flexible custom saving of reports. This release will be more of a focus on like being able to dynamically interact with your reports. But yes, there's kind of like a module for that will be released in it pretty soon.
And Becky is asking, have the child class reports changed?
I'm sorry, I don't know if I understand. Child class reports.
Let's see. Becky,
The ability to drill down and
mute your mic here.
I mean, the availability of the child classes on the reports that were there before are still there today.
Yes, that is the answer.
Perfect.
It's actually easier to view them, I think, in the new format.
Yep.
Yeah, you can go as granular as the child classes in your in those tabular reports. So yes, you do not lose that at all. Actually, you have the ability to kind of have some flexibility there right now as to like how you want to roll things up and how deeply granular you want to go. So that, to Mike's point, play with it, explore it, and it'd be really nice to get feedback on, you know, what that implementation is like.
And on some of these reports that you probably downloaded into Excel, you can do sorting and do those kinds of things right on the fly live. So there's really not the same necessity to rank and do the things that you were doing. You were downloading data to rank and sort them differently. And you can do these on the system now. So for some of you that, you know, were using Excel for different reasons, you might find that this, you know, platform allows you to do some of those things without having to download.
Correct. I think the thing to emphasize is that the data is real data on these reports. It's not just printed numbers. So you can interact with it in really creative ways. And have a lot of flexibility to move things around. But like resort and exclude or focus on the things you want to see. I'm sure you'll have many questions.
Steve also had a follow-up on his user-specific settings and filters, and he's just asking, down the road, when we do have that, will there be the ability to have a user-specific login and settings that only show for that person rather than the entire set of people for that company?
So the answer to your question there is yes, and that's precisely why we just want to make sure that is perfectly tested. So because I think we acknowledge that we want things to be relevant to the people that are using them, both so like as relevant as possible to the user. So yes.
So we're showing you the back end of the system, you know, that we can recreate for you to see it. But the Retail Orbit website itself, the front end of it, is going to be rewritten this year, and the kind of issues that you're addressing will be addressed within the writing of that site. I don't want to get complicated about it, but that's an important question. It's important consideration. And I think, Steve, what you're asking also is, as we move forward and make more things available, you might want to sort or filter who gets to see what in your organization. And that's important.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did have two planning related questions. It may not be particularly software, but Chris is asking, could we also set our plan to reflect that we are closed Sundays?
Set our plan to reflect that we're closed Sundays. So you want to change, the question is, I want to change my planning data, or do we make sure that we take into consideration, I guess I need more clarification on that. Is that something that the user wants to do? Is that the question?
Yes.
No, that is not something that the user could do. The only thing that the user can do currently is to retrend their progress for the month, and then all the calculations that retrend therein, like OTB, so forth.
And that's something that would be worked out specifically between the client, the retail expert, and our planning staff.
Correct. That's part of the client setup.
Yeah. Mark, you're on mute.
I think there's two different questions here. One is, on all my trend reports, as Mike displayed, you can show the number of days you're open. So instead of being open 30, you'd be open 26. So it would change all your trend reports. The second is, if you're asking a planning question, you know, I'm going to close a day a week. Is that going to change the amount of volume I do in a month? That's a planning question that you should have with the planning team, your retail expert. I can give you my thoughts on it, but that isn't the right place for it.
Yep. And Chris actually just updated saying that the latter was what he was looking for. So it's more of a planning question.
Yeah, got it.
And then I did have 2 or 3 more planning specific questions that I think are probably for a different forum. So those we can address individually via email. But as far as the software itself, I think that was the final question.
Great. Well,
that was it.
I'll let Mark close it out, really. You know, thank you, everybody who's worked on this presentation. Thank you for everybody who's worked on the the software behind it. Thanks to everybody who showed up to listen. And Mark, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to thank, again, we're doing a lot of thank yous here, but there was a lot of hard work. The last 5% at the end is always the toughest. Be patient with us. Whenever you have a big launch, there's always opportunity for things to go wrong. And we're operators are standing by to fix them, I guess is the best way I can put it. But we hope that we have covered most of what we need to cover. I mean, there's some things that we had wanted to release on the opening that are going to be postponed a month or two. There's some clients that have custom reporting, and we're going to wait until the custom reporting is done for them. And we've got some people with some specific needs that we're just going to wait. But everybody else, we're ripping the Band-Aid off. We've got to go. You have an opportunity to play with this coming up this week. I think on the 25th is the goal here. And you know, you'll automatically, for those clients that are moving over, which is 95% of our client base, you'll be able to poke away, have questions. And I know Sarah and her team are anxiously waiting for your support calls, but they're a great team and they do great work. So thank you all for being here today and joining us and taking time out of your day. And most of all, thank you for your ongoing and continued support. It means a lot to us. We're here for you. We're retailers first. We built this with the minds of retailers, not technologists. So I think that differentiates us in the marketplace. You know, we know and understand your needs, and we're building a technology for you to make decisions faster, quicker, better. As you know, I'm a big believer in fail fast, and this is just our contribution to allow you to make those decisions quickly. Thank you all again, and thank you, team, for a great job. Have a great week, have a great month, and have a great summer. See you soon. See you at Magic for those of you going.
Thank you all.